Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, where I talk about all things related to literature and writing. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to 7 famous writers and their quotes, and tell you some interesting facts about their lives and works. Whether you are a fan of Shakespeare, Twain, Rowling, Hemingway, Austen, King, or Morrison, you will find something to inspire you in this video. So, grab your favorite book and join me on this literary journey. William Shakespeare. Let's start with the greatest writer in the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist, William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon, England, and died in 1616. He wrote 37 plays and 150 sonnets, as well as poems and verses. His plays cover a variety of genres, such as tragedy, comedy, history, and romance, and are full of memorable characters, plots, and dialogues. Some of his most famous works include Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Shakespeare's influence on the English language and literature is immense, and many of his words and phrases are still used today. One of his most famous quotes is, "To be or not to be? That is the question." This quote comes from Hamlet, and it expresses the existential dilemma of the protagonist, who is contemplating suicide. This quote shows Shakespeare's mastery of language and his ability to capture the human condition. Mark Twain. Next, we have one of the greatest American writers and humorists, Mark Twain. Twain was born in 1835 in Florida, Missouri, and died in 1910. He wrote novels, short stories, essays, and travelogues, often using his real-life experiences and regional dialects. He is best known for his satirical and witty style, and his criticism of racism, imperialism, and hypocrisy. Some of his most famous works include The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and The Prince and the Pauper. Twain's works are considered classics of American literature and have influenced many writers and artists. One of his most famous quotes is, "The secret of getting ahead is getting started." This quote comes from his essay, How to Tell a Story, and it reflects his pragmatic and optimistic attitude. This quote shows Twain's wisdom and his encouragement to pursue one's goals. J.K. Rowling. Moving on, we have one of the most successful and influential authors of all time, J.K. Rowling. Rowling was born in 1965 in Yate, England, and is still alive. She is best known for creating the Harry Potter series, which has sold over 500 million copies and has been translated into 80 languages. The series follows the adventures of a young wizard and his friends, who face various challenges and enemies in a magical world. Rowling also writes under the pseudonyms Robert Galbraith and Newt Scamander. Rowling's works are loved by millions of fans around the world, and have inspired many films, games, and theme parks. One of her most famous quotes is, "It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." This quote comes from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and it is said by Dumbledore, the wise and powerful headmaster of Hogwarts. This quote shows Rowling's belief in the importance of free will and moral values. Ernest Hemingway. Next up, we have one of the most celebrated and influential writers of the 20th century, Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway was born in 1899 in Oak Park, Illinois, and died in 1961. He wrote novels, short stories, and nonfiction, often based on his experiences as a journalist, war correspondent, and adventurer. He is known for his distinctive and minimalist style, and his exploration of themes such as courage, death, love, and war. Some of his most famous works include The Old Man and the Sea, The Sun Also Rises, and A Farewell to Arms. Hemingway's works have won many awards, and have influenced many writers and artists. One of his most famous quotes is, "There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self." This quote comes from a letter he wrote to his friend, and it expresses his philosophy of self-improvement and humility. This quote shows Hemingway's character and his aspiration to excellence. Jane Austen. Moving on, we have one of the most widely read and admired writers in English literature, Jane Austen. Austen was born in 1775 in Steventon, England, and died in 1817. She wrote novels, letters, and juvenilia, often focusing on the lives, manners, and marriages of the landed gentry in the 18th and 19th centuries. She is known for her witty and ironic style, and her realistic and complex characters. Some of her most famous works include Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. Austen's works are considered classics of English literature, and have inspired many adaptations and sequels. One of her most famous quotes is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged, that a single man in possession of a good fortune be in want of a wife." This quote comes from the opening sentence of Pride and Prejudice, and it sets the tone and theme of the novel. This quote shows Austen's humor and her critique of the social norms and expectations of her time. Stephen King. Next, we have one of the most prolific and popular writers of contemporary horror, suspense, science fiction, and fantasy, Stephen King. King was born in 1947 in Portland, Maine, and is still alive. He has written over 60 novels and 200 short stories, as well as screenplays, comics, and essays. He is best known for his terrifying and imaginative stories, and his rich and detailed descriptions. Some of his most famous works include The Shining, The Stand, and the Dark Tower series. King's works have sold over 350 million copies, and have been adapted into many films, shows, and games. One of his most famous quotes is, "The scariest moment is always just before you start." This quote comes from his memoir, On Writing, and it reflects his advice to aspiring writers. This quote shows King's honesty and his passion for writing. Toni Morrison. Finally, we have one of the most acclaimed and influential writers of the 20th and 21st centuries, Toni Morrison. Morrison was born in 1931 in Lorain, Ohio, and died in 2019. She wrote novels, essays, and Nobel lectures, often exploring the themes of race, gender, identity, and history in America. She is known for her poetic and powerful style, and her diverse and complex characters. Some of her most famous works include Beloved, The Bluest Eye, and Song of Solomon. Morrison's works have won many awards, including the Nobel Prize in Literature, and have influenced many writers and artists. One of her most famous quotes is, "If there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it." This quote comes from an interview she gave, and it expresses her motivation and inspiration for writing. This quote shows Morrison's creativity and her encouragement to other writers. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about these 7 famous writers and their quotes, and I hope you found some. Don't forget to like video if you liked or dislike if you didn't like. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more content related to literature and books. Thank you for watching.